Good evening. Welcome to the October 1st edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. Thank you all for joining us tonight. If you're here in the council chambers, on either side of the room, on the shelves, there are copies of tonight's agenda. If you're home watching, downers.us, lower left-hand corner, this week's meetings is a link which will provide you access to the same materials. We start our meeting every night with the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight we have some special helpers for that. We have Webelos Pack 227 Den 4. So if you guys would like to come on up here and help us with the Pledge of Allegiance, come on right up in front of everything. Okay, guys, where's the flag? All right. Ready? Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Guys, well done. Follow your hands, all right? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a seat. We love it when kids in the community help us get our meetings going, because the other thing that really happened is for the last half hour or so, they were here asking questions about their local government, and that's awesome. So thanks again, guys. Have a good evening. Thank you. April, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Gray,
Here.
Commissioner Cullivan,
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Pickett,
Here.
Commissioner Wallace, Commissioner Earl,
Here.
Commissioner Jose,
Here.
Mayor Barnett.
Here. Tonight's agenda has several opportunities for public input. When we get to them, one of them will be on subjects not on tonight's agenda. That'll be the first opportunity. At that time, we'll ask people to come to the public. They can speak on any agenda item. A little later in the meeting, we'll have another opportunity for folks to come to the public, come to the podium and speak to any specific agenda items. So as we get started here, we have some meetings from previous councils to approve. Are there motions?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the minutes of council meetings, items A, B, and C, the minutes of the September 17th, 2019 meeting, September 23rd, 2019, and then the executive session minutes from May 14, May 21, June 4, June 10, and June 13 of 2019.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved unanimously. Thank you. Before we get started, we have a couple of proclamations this evening, actually three of them. I'll read the first two, which we'll be distributing to our staff. Community Planning Month. Whereas change is constant and affects all communities, and whereas community planning and plans can help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people work and live, and whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community, and whereas the full benefits of planning requires public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation, and whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States and its territories, and whereas this year's theme for planning is infrastructure that benefits all, and whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by professional community and regional planners of the Village of Downers Grove, and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service of these professionals. Now, therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2019 as Community Planning Month in the Village of Downers Grove, in conjunction with the celebration of National Community Planning Month, dated this first day of October 2019 in Downers Grove, Illinois. And related, National Code Compliance Month. Whereas code enforcement officers provide for the safety, health, and welfare of citizens living in communities throughout the United States through the enforcement of building, zoning, housing, environmental, property maintenance, and other codes and ordinances. And whereas code enforcement officers are dedicated, well-trained, highly responsible individuals who take their jobs seriously and are committed to promoting life safety and improving neighborhood aesthetics as the course of their daily jobs. And whereas October is set aside to honor and recognize our code enforcement officers as an opportunity to highlight the contributions these individuals have made to the quality of our communities. And whereas many valuable contributions are made by code enforcement officers throughout our country. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim October 2019 as National Code Compliance Month in the Village of Downers Grove and extend thanks for the commitment of our code enforcement officers to public service. Dated this first day of October 2019, Downers Grove, Illinois. Stan Popovich from our Community Development Department will come up and accept these proclamations. That's right. Okay, we have one other proclamation this evening. Whereas arts, culture, and humanities are the embodiment of all things beautiful and entertaining in the world, an enduring record of human achievement. And whereas the arts, culture, and humanities enhance every aspect of our life in Downers Grove. And whereas we use the humanities, history, literature, and philosophy to explore what it means to be human. And whereas the arts, culture, and humanities play a unique and intrinsically valuable role in the lives of our families. Whereas the month of October has been recognized as DuPage Month by Arts DuPage and the arts and culture organizations in all communities within DuPage County. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim October 2019 as Arts DuPage Month and call upon all citizens to celebrate and promote the arts and culture in the Village of Downers Grove. Dated this first day of October 2019, Downers Grove, Illinois. Robin here?
Yes.
Robin, if you'd come up and accept this, please. Robin Trilot is part of the Arts Department group in town, a group that promote arts and Village of Downers Grove.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, very much for making this proclamation for this month. And just like to let everybody know that this Saturday, the Art Department has artists showing their work in various businesses along Main Street from 12 to 5. So if you're on Main Street, please patronize those businesses that are hosting artists. Go in, see their work, talk to the artists, maybe even buy them. And then Saturday evening, we have an exhibit at St. Andrew's Church, and we're all invited to that too. All of this is free of charge. Thank you again, Mayor.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, with that, we now move on to public comments of a general nature. A couple things. First of all, we'd like to try and keep the conversation moving and the meeting moving, so if you have a chance to speak and you'd like to come up and talk about a subject, please limit it to about 5 minutes. Also, don't feel compelled to repeat everything everybody has said. We want to hear from everybody. Everybody should feel free to come speak, but you don't necessarily have to repeat. You can also step up to the microphone and say, yeah, what he said. We are listening, and we really are taking notes and going back and reviewing minutes of meetings as well as video of meetings. So with that, anybody that wants to speak on a subject not on tonight's agenda, please come up to the podium.
I'm Diane Masura. I live at 4632 Stanley Avenue in Downers Grove. Mayor Barnett and Commissioners, I would like to address the question of recreational marijuana businesses in our village. I agree with those commissioners who are supporting an opt-out ordinance. There are several reasons why Downers Grove need not be in the first phase of rollout of recreational marijuana in Illinois. We haven't observed the impact of recreational marijuana businesses in similar communities. Several of our neighboring communities have already opted out, and others are considering it. I resonate with Commissioner Gray's allusion to the brand or long-term image of Downers Grove. Speaking as a 40-year resident and homeowner who found Downers Grove a wonderful community in which to raise my family, I would hate to see the village become a weed center for the western suburbs. There were several articles in this Sunday's Chicago Tribune, that's Sunday, September 29th, and I'd like to refer to a couple of them. The first is headlined, Industry Observer Warns of Weed Woes in Illinois. CEO sees shortages, possible corruption when sales begin. This article was highlighting a panel discussion among industry leaders hosted on September 19th in Chicago by the American Bar Association, which, by the way, recently called for federal legalization of marijuana. So here are some of the panel's observations. The panel anticipated the potential for fraudulent minority ownership and subsequent legal challenges. The panel cited current federal prohibition which prevents banks from handling cannabis proceeds, requiring cash-only operations. This could encourage fraud and theft, and locally this would necessitate more police involvement. Participants in the panel suggested that, quote, the window to make big bucks may be limited. Widespread legalization could turn cannabis into a commodity that is grown more cheaply outdoors in favorable climates, not in the greenhouses required by Illinois weather. Another point made by the panel, the limited number of dispensaries allowed by the state rollout will most likely lead to product shortages. A possible side effect might be the proliferation of lower-priced black market products. A second article in this Tribune from Sunday refers to California being the biggest legal marijuana market in the world, with a black market there 3 times as big. With the headline, Thickening Plot, Authorities Pour Over Illicit Vaping Products in Mystery Drug Illnesses, it describes the adulteration of THC oil with thickeners that can be hazardous when inhaled. And there was a third article about the same subject. THC vaping products may be the source of mystery illnesses. Just because something is legal doesn't make it good or desirable. I opposed the move to legalize recreational marijuana in the state of Illinois. I oppose the Village of Downers Grove amending zoning ordinances to permit recreational marijuana businesses. Let's opt out.
Thank you. Others? Please go ahead.
I have a question first.
Sure.
Someone else sent me a statement that they'd like me to read tonight. I didn't know if I was allowed to do that.
Sure, just tell us who it's from.
I
So
will do
we're
that. Okay.
trying to keep a record here of.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so this is from, by the way, I'm Jen Ostrom, but this is not my statement yet. This is from Cinda K. Lester, who lives at 644 67th Street. I hereby certify that I allow Jen Ostrom to serve as my proxy and read this message on my behalf at the Downers Grove Village Council meeting on October 1st, 2019. Council members and Mayor Barnett, I am beyond distressed that you, as a group, have elected to forego the opportunity to investigate the planning, zoning, tax, and other financial implications of recreational marijuana sales in the village. In doing so, you have alienated a large percentage of your constituents and removed the possibility of further information gathering. This decision is extremely short-sighted and an unfortunate display of partisan politics in what is supposed to be a nonpartisan council. I am equally distressed that the council has chosen to discount the opinions expressed by constituents via phone, email, social media, or other means other than standing at the podium on meeting nights. This is in direct opposition to what each of you promised in your campaigns, willingness to listen to those you serve. Your job as council members is not to impose your own personal judgments of marijuana use and sales, which will be legal activities, but to investigate the potential and benefits and challenges of the sale of marijuana and its associated businesses within DG. By refusing to investigate those potential outcomes, You are holding the resident taxpayers hostage to your personal beliefs. Shame on you. I hope and expect that you will reconsider your decision, paying careful consideration to the potential long-term tax implications the decision holds for the village. Thank you, Cinda K. Lester.
Okay.
So that's hers. And then this is mine. I'm Jen Ostrom. I live at 6825 Camden Road. Mayor Barnett and Commissioners, I'm here because I find it incredibly alarming that 4 of you feel that it is in any way appropriate to shut down a fact-finding mission on how cannabis-based businesses would impact Downers Grove. That tells me that you are so personally biased that you aren't even willing to allow information to be gathered. Information is never a bad thing, except for those who want to control a situation by making sure that information is not available to the people. We're seeing a lot of that in this country right now. We certainly don't need that here. We can exchange study for study that proves your point or mine. Much of it is irrelevant because we are not debating whether recreational marijuana should be legal. That's a done deal. That's already been decided. What we should be finding out is what the expected impact of these businesses on Downers Grove will be, and you are trying to stop information. If you want people to trust you to represent them, never attempt to curtail information. I don't want a packet of 30 or 60 links. I want Downers Grove to compile their own information that is specific to our community. You are not the morality police. It is not your place to judge what people do with legal substances. Marijuana will be legal and it will be used in Downers Grove. We should be trying to learn if the tax revenue from these businesses could benefit our community rather than Darien, Westmont, or Lombard. Also, party at my house on January 1st, bring your weed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Barnett and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Dr. Margaret Pacoda. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I live at 1421 Coralberry Lane. I have to apologize, I'm not here with a professional presentation. I'm usually working on Tuesday nights, and it's a last-minute opportunity for me to come here. So I quickly downloaded a few things from the National Institutes of Health. I'm primarily speaking, though, as a resident of the community. I would like to second everything that Diane had said, and I have a number of concerns that much of the research can support. First of all, we know that individuals are impaired when they're driving under the influence, and that the majority of accidents do happen close to home. If we have an ordinance allowing marijuana to be sold and distributed in Downers Grove, we're increasing that likelihood. And we've had some tragic deaths in the last year. I'm sure you all know that high school student who was killed at Downers North at 10 o'clock in the morning by a drunk driver. We don't want more of these incidents to be happening in Downers Grove. Also, the police are not able to have a test that will assess the level of cannabis, of THC in the system like they can instantaneously with alcohol. So they are making an assessment, yes, of how impaired they are, with some objective assessment procedures. However, they don't have anything objective at this point in time. I'm trying to think of all my other concerns. But I did bring some research, and I would be happy to share it with you. And if you would like me to put in the time to actually do a thorough assessment of this, I would be more than happy to do so. I just can't come on Tuesday nights.
If you have some research, if you'd give it to the guy at the end there, he will make sure that we all end up with copies of it. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Mayor Barnett and Commissioners. My name is Colleen Sempt. I live at 6545 Main Street in Downers Grove. I've been a resident for over 35 years. And I also oppose the sale of marijuana. I agree with what Diane said and what the last woman said. I realize that we can generate additional revenue, but we need to see how these other towns handle the sale of it, because I also think that there is a huge safety hazard, and it's going to be an increase for law enforcement, emergency personnel, and Downers Grove is not a village that I want to say has the best marijuana dispensary in, the western suburbs. So I oppose that also. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead and jump in there. You've been pretty patient.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you all for having me. My name is Francis Cerisi. I live at 4439 Wilson Avenue, Downers Grove. I'm here in regards to a situation you may already know about that's been brought to my attention. This is the main perpetrator. His name is Jester, and the issue deals with Chapter 15, Section 5.1B, some code that he breaks all the time, disturbing the peace. I've read the code. I've had attorneys that I cannot afford read the code, and there's a whole lot of issues based on numerous things that could be discussed in court, such as decibels and how close you have to be and time of the day. He's a dog. My neighborhood has dogs in every direction of my house. They bark all during the day. You can hear a dog anytime you want. My boy Jester here has an issue based on his early lifestyle before he came to me. He was in a townhome for better than 10 hours a day, every day in a box. 2 half-hour sessions with a dog walker. Jester here is deaf. I happen to be a person very well versed in deaf dog training and handling. His breeder called me because the owner, who was a nice enough guy, his homeowners association said the dog or you and the dog go, and he had just gotten a wonderful dog or a wonderful job. The breeder asked me to take the dog, and I've done that. I have worked with Jester for the past 2 years to bring his issue from, let's just for numerical value, say a level 10 down to a level 2. And that's been over a year. I've got a bag full of things I can show you of where I have used all my efforts, and it's getting better all the time. Because of this violation, my dog barking in the middle of the afternoon, any given day that someone could be mowing their lawn or doing something of noise value. This is the 4th and 5th tickets I've been issued, and the police have apologized to me as much as they've given me the tickets. I'm looking for some maybe clarification or some kind of, I don't know, flexibility or dispensation or something. I can't think of enough proper words. But the fact is, he's a dog. He doesn't bark in the morning. He doesn't bark in the evening when you're sleeping. He barks in the middle of the afternoon. You've all witnessed him here. He's done nothing here. He is out of his home that he services and protects his home. Officers have met me at the police station. Officers have met me downtown Downers Grove at the car show where we go all the time, and he is just fine. One time in our home, a police officer came in and said she wanted to meet him, and he pretty much wanted to eat her. But that was based on the fact that if you see a police officer in all their gear, they are very intimidating. His job is in the home. He barks in the house. He's never off leash outside. He's only outside with either myself or my wife. He barks in the afternoon. And once again, these are tickets 4 and 5 because of my neighbor. I need some help here. I just don't know what to do anymore. My neighbor has suggested and offered to cut his throat. I'm not making this up. Police officers, a sergeant whose name escapes me, starts with a V, explained to me that they asked him to come in with me to negotiate. He has no negotiational skills. He has no compromising skills. He's got no humanity, the fact he wants my dog gone. There are no compromises involved. Not getting rid of my dog. And that's the situation.
I appreciate you bringing that here, and I can sympathize with you. I have a dog, too, also a rescued dog. But what you're seeing, I think, from the police officers is the same thing you'd see from the village. We'd like to be helpful in facilitating some improved conversation with your neighbors. The fact is, there is no vehicle within this body for special dispensation or
That was just the first one.
flexibility, right.
That was the word I could come up with.
But it's a good point, and it's a fair question. The issue that we have, though, is that we have to apply all ordinances exactly the same across the board. And the truth of the matter is, with 18,000 pieces of property in Downers Grove, as you probably heard from our police officers, you would hear it from code enforcement, too, we generally are responding to complaints. We don't have the wherewithal to just drive around looking for code violations. So, what I can tell you is that you're not going to receive what it is you think you're seeking tonight from this group.
I already have. You've listened to me for the time I've stood up here.
Well, I hope that helps some. And if for some reason you can get your neighbor to take up the offer to come sit down and talk at the police station, that'd be awesome. But the truth is, that's often the way this stuff works. Neighbors or others in the neighborhood see of a violation and they report it. At that point, we really are compelled to enforce and apply the law equitably to everyone.
How deep do we go with the law? Are there any boundaries? Are there any limitations? A dog barking in the middle of the afternoon, he may claim to have video, he may claim to have audio tapes, and that's fine. As an example, this afternoon at approximately 4:20, I came home from work. I am a Chicago public school teacher of 30-plus years. His wife was standing outside of my bedroom window having her cigarette break. As soon as I pulled into the driveway, she managed to get herself all the way down to the opposite end of the driveway. Yesterday, both of my dogs were involved. The fact was, it's because an officer came to my front door. My other dog, who's never involved in this, could see that officer. Like I've explained, you know what an officer on the street looks like. He barked. That officer then went to the backyard on the patio to speak with my neighbors, and my dog continued to bark. If you can see my dog, he can see you. And that is still, even though the distance is about the distance between me and you, that's still in his visual space. He is going to bark and protect his area. That's the job of a dog.
I understand that. I understand dogs barking. I also understand that the ordinance that we're talking about is there for a reason and has to be applied the same in every instance. And whether or not it's triggered by someone coming, that certainly could be the case. The rules are still the rules, and we have to.
The man has a history completely toxic with my father-in-law, who is now dead.
Hang on. We can't adjudicate you and your relationship with you and your neighbor up here. We just can't do that. I sympathize with you, and I'm sorry you're in a tough situation with a neighbor, but I think from the village's standpoint, we're doing what we can and what we should. And so we have to respond when somebody complains. We absolutely have to.
Is this a 24-hour issue? It's not like a rock party at 2 in the morning. That's disturbing the peace.
Yeah. You know what?
My dog is being a dog in the middle of the afternoon. And we've even
Time out. I'm kind of going past the point of this. Don't leave. If you hang around, or if you want to give Mike your number, I'd be happy to talk with you a little further. But what you're seeking tonight, this body can't give you, okay? So if you give Mike, the guy at the end there, your number, I'd be happy to talk with you further, but we're not going to be able to make any progress beyond what we've said tonight here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was unaware that anybody was going to speak about the legalization of marijuana. I mentioned to you in my conversation so far, I am a 30-plus year Chicago public school teacher. It's legal. Nobody in Downers Grove is going to not smoke because they can't buy it in Downers Grove. I don't know what the laws are anymore. When I was in high school, Hinsdale was a dry city. There was one liquor store in Hinsdale, which was a bar, which is now closed and gone. It didn't stop anybody from drinking in Hinsdale. The law says that it's legal. Nobody's not going to smoke because they can't buy it in Downers Grove. I can appreciate all the reasons that people would not want to have any dispensaries in Downers Grove. It's not going to stop anything. What it's going to stop is any taxable issue that we can benefit from going to the surrounding communities that do sell. And that, to me, is giving away free money.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have subjects not on tonight's agenda they want to touch on? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Emma Ostrom. I live at 6825 Camden Road. I'm going to make this short because I don't want to beat a dead horse. I'm probably one of the youngest people in this room. So I felt that it was important that I had somewhat of a say on this topic. I feel that the decision that the committee of Downers Grove made about the allowing the sale of recreational marijuana in Downers Grove was made out of fear. A lot of money will be lost. I feel like that's kind of a known thing. I feel like during the time of trying to see what's going to happen with the surrounding cities, it's going to be our loss. I don't really have much else to say on that. I'm not fond of public speaking. I personally am a user of medicinal marijuana for reasons, but I do feel strongly about this topic, and it is my generation and the generations after mine that are going to be affected by it. So yeah, I mean, I'm not my best right now. I'm not presenting myself eloquently, but
You're doing fine.
I hope that everything was heard tonight and taken into consideration. So thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name's Ken Albert. I live on 5437 Fairhaven Court in Downers Grove. What I'm asking for, looking for answers in regards to is, I guess in regards to a fact-finding mission in regards to our street. We're not sure if we're a private road or a public road in Downers Grove. We've got a sign out at the end of the street that says private. Different people we've spoken to in regards to code enforcement, police officers. We get different answers from whichever group we're asking at the time. So we're asking from the committee and from your organization is, are we private or are we public? And who do we need to talk to? Because code enforcement was out in May and said they'd get back to us, and we haven't heard back yet.
All right, nobody up here is going to know that answer, but I'm going to push you off again to the guy at the end of the table. Mike?
What street again?
We do have some information on
Yeah,
this.
we absolutely, there's no reason we can't have said. Honestly, you probably got just the wrong people, and I'm sorry for that.
That's why I'm here tonight. My wife came, my other neighbor came, and said, let's just figure this thing out tonight.
Absolutely. We will absolutely get you the right answer real quickly.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Good evening. I'll try and keep this brief and keep things rolling along. My name is Jennifer Huda. I live at 5701 Webster Street. I came here tonight for two reasons. The first is I would like to formally express my opinion on the sale of recreational cannabis in the village. As a small business owner in town, a member of Chamber 630, a mother of two small children, and a former resident of Colorado when recreational cannabis was deemed legal, I support the sale of it in Downers. I'm not personally interested in partaking in it, but I would enjoy seeing some of the possible tax revenue generated from the sale of it. I believe it is possible to have a family-focused community that also happens to sell cannabis. I used to live in a community like that. I would love to see a very posh, professional, and Pinterest-worthy dispensary where cannabis can be sold safely. The other thing that I would like to address is my disappointment in the decision-making process surrounding this issue. Some of you have voted to stop researching the issue and no longer want to look at new studies. 4 of you have stated that you do not want the sale of cannabis in Downers Grove and that no further information is likely to change your mind. Some council members cite that there are, quote, too many unknowns regarding issues like potential revenue and security. I do not understand how one can talk about unknown factors and then call for no further research. The research is out there. We would not be the first community to allow the sale of cannabis. It has been obviously legalized in several states, and I'm confident that we can find information that is pertinent to Downers Grove. Furthermore, from every outlet I have seen, including released council emails, local polls, and personal community interaction, there's an overwhelming majority of residents who want the village to allow the sale of recreational cannabis. Some members of the council are doing a disservice to the community by ignoring their input. It is apparent that some members of the council are basing their decisions on their own personal bias of cannabis use in general and are trying to silence the voices of their community members that do not agree with them. I am asking that you reconsider opening the discussion and continue research on the issue because that is what the majority of the community is asking for. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Stephen Gigailo, 4908 Highland and 4913 Main Street. I'm a residential property owner for 29 years and a commercial property owner in the downtown SSA for 19 years. Please indulge me for just a moment to read a definition from the Attorney's Guarantee Title Fund regarding special service area financing. Special service area financing is a taxing mechanism used by a municipality or a county to finance additional services, improvements, or facilities desired in a certain portion of its jurisdiction. An SSA constitutes a differential taxing area within a municipality in which the improvement or service is financed through a tax applicable only on the area receiving the benefit. Now, at the Village Council meeting on 9/18/18, an ordinance was passed to establish SSA number 10. Now, just to remind you, that was for the Bridgepoint Downers Grove subdivision, and the purpose of this SSA was to maintain a detention basin if the homeowners association failed to do so. Now, in my mind, this was a perfect fit for that definition, because the residents of Bridgepoint are the sole beneficiary of the SSA. Now, that brings me to our downtown SSA. I'd like to read a couple of quotes. The first is from Commissioner Jose. The downtown has really become the vibrant beating heart of Downers Grove. And former Commissioner Waldeck, the downtown benefits the entire community and makes the entire village more desirable. And we only have to look at the long-range plan that was shown on the whiteboard. The second priority action item is the plan for the future of the downtown Downers Grove. What I'm pointing out here is that the entire village benefits from our downtown. Therefore, the entire village should be sharing in the financial responsibility for supporting this asset. Now, although I'm advocating for letting the current SSA to expire without replacement, I still feel that we need to keep the Downtown Management Corporation because I feel that it benefits the entire community. Through marketing, the DMC will increase sales tax revenue. Through events, it makes us a vibrant village and brings a sense of community. We only have to look to Darien and Oak Brook for a contrast. And it attracts new businesses and keeps our vacancy rates low. Now, a second thing I wanted to point out was at the September 23rd, 2019 meeting, Mike Baker, and I was stunned to hear this, had said that at the DMC board meeting this Thursday morning at 8 a.m., he's going to present an option to remove a residential component to the SSA, making it an entire commercial SSA. I was stunned because on 8/20/19, Commissioner Jose said that due to state of Illinois law, we cannot tax the property of a retail business any differently than we can a residence. So maybe there's a legal workaround to this, but I just wanted the council to understand that if you're going to hoist the burden of an SSA on the commercial property owners, this is going to be detrimental to our downtown. That SSA tax is going to be passed on to higher rents, ultimately higher costs for the consumer, and most likely larger vacancy rates. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Subjects not on tonight's agenda?
Hello, my name is Kim Collins. I live on Fairhaven Court also. Ken got up and spoke earlier about our street. I just want to add a couple of points. I've lived on the street for 26 years. The biggest issue we're facing is the fact that we can't get the street paved. It never has been paved by the town of Downers Grove. And we're not unincorporated. We paid full taxes. We're incorporated Downers Grove. We do have garbage and other services that make it down the street just fine. It's kind of a narrow street, but that's why it's so important to determine this, because financially it's very important. And we've repaved the street ourselves once, 25, 24 years ago, somewhere around there, and now it's really overdue and it's time, which would be a big cost burden for the homeowners. And I had sent a letter and talked to John Welch in the, I'm not sure which department he works in. He's some type of engineer, I think, with paving. And I wanted to give you a copy of that letter. And all the homeowners on Downers Grove signed it. And that's why what Ken is alluding to earlier is there's a lot of contradiction with the map of whether the street is a public road, whether it's a private road. But regardless, we're entitled to the services that the other residents in Downers Grove have. And so I just wanted to mention it again, that's why it has become such a compelling issue for us as homeowners.
It'll be important to figure it out, because one thing is it isn't regardless, right? If it's a private road, then it in fact isn't entitled to the same services that other public roads have.
Understood,
So
but we already gave up
we gotta figure
easement
that
to
out.
have the water put down the road, the water lines.
I
And
understand.
there's contradicting maps about what it is or what it isn't.
We got to get it straight, and we will be obviously working with you to figure the map out.
But I just wanted more context about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you all for a couple of things, taking the time to come here and also being patient with each other. Appreciate that. That takes us now to our consent agenda. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Mayor Barnett, I move that the council adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes unanimously. Taking us to our active agenda. On our active agenda, we have one item tonight as a matter of procedure. We will introduce this item. We'll take audience comments first, if there are any, and then we'll go to the council discussion on the subject. So with that, over to you, Dave.
I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Real quick.
Thank you.
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance authorizing a special use for 2149, 2151, and 2153 63rd Street to permit an animal boarding facility as presented.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Dave, for not embarrassing me worse than that. I already did myself. It's good to have colleagues. Tonight on the active agenda, we do have this issue of an animal boarding facility down off of 63rd Street. Is there anyone here from the audience that would like to speak to this issue? Okay, with that, any council comments or questions on it? Okay, well then, April, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Earl?
Aye.
Commissioner Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner Colomani?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. And that's the end of our active agenda. We'll move on to the first reading, which is where I will get a chance to hand it off. When we get to this subject, we will talk about it at the council level first, if there are any conversation, and then at that point, we'll open it up to the audience. You can react to what you've heard so far. With that, Dave.
Thank you. Only one item on tonight's first reading agenda. It's an ordinance providing for the refunding or refinancing of existing bonds. This is great financial news, and Judy Butney, our finance director, is here to give us the background of this item. Judy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff has prepared an ordinance authorizing a bond refunding within specific parameters. The concept of a bond refunding is very similar to refinancing a mortgage, to take advantage of lower interest rates and therefore a lower mortgage payment. In our case, this is going to cause us to have lower debt service payments. Our financial advisor has identified this opportunity, which at the current rates would give us a net present value savings of about $800,000 or 5.21%. Specifically, the parameters which allow staff to proceed with the refunding identifies the bonds, which are Series 2012 road and water bonds, designates the maximum amount to be refunded, which is $22,575,000, states that the minimum net present value of savings to the village is 3%, and this is in our debt management policy. What staff will do once this is approved is work with our financial advisor, Robert Baird, to negotiate a sale using Raymond James and Associates as the underwriter to get the best pricing that we can get. We'll proceed with a ratings call with Standard & Poor's and then issue the official statement to the potential investors. The official statement is a document that contains all the details about the debt and also financial information about the village. We expect that we will have the bonds priced by the first week in November and that the deal will close the week of November 18th. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Judy. Any council comments or questions? Audience questions? Thank you. Just so the audience knows, your village spends a lot of time and energy on financing and trying to do our very best to keep things as low cost as possible. So we have an entire team, Judy and her team, as well as some external assets that we rely on and are in contact with regularly, looking for opportunities to reduce cost. As much as we all wish we paid everything in cash, we don't. And so keeping debt service down is always a good thing. And thank you for your crew for being as alert and diligent as you are.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well said, Mayor. I have nothing else under the first reading agenda. Thank you.
All right. Is there a manager's report or no?
I have nothing under the manager's report either.
You are the best. Enza?
Hi, thanks, Mayor. I only have the one item, which is the ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $22,575 in taxable general obligation refunding bonds. It will be on next week's active agenda.
Thank you.
Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mayor and council reports. Let's start with Rich.
No report.
Leslie?
No report, Mayor.
Kavanaugh?
No report.
Marge?
No report, Mayor.
Greg?
You almost got there. Thank you, Mayor.
In Nicole's absence, you had to step up. Huh?
Well, I hadn't planned on saying anything, but since my name got invoked a couple of times tonight, I thought I'd go ahead and clarify something. Unfortunately, Mr. Jagailo has left, but context is king, as with most things. The context of my statement about residential versus commercial property taxes had to do with our ability to apply different rates to different types of property, and I think that's important to know. I would not speak with authority with regard to all of the different regulations around SSAs. I would leave that to our village attorney, who does a fantastic job with it. And while I do not just play a lawyer on TV, I am one, I don't practice in this particular area, so I know better than to opine with regard to the intricacies of SSA law. So I think it's important to know that our village staff is on top of that, and they've got it in hand. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Greg. I have no report, so with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.